Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we are speaking with Kyre Adept. Oh, and she has it right on her screen. Here. The little message came across and I couldn't see the pronunciation. I was getting ready to start the recording. So welcome, Kyre. She's one of 40 geotrans practitioners, and she uses a unique modality to reset and restore your inner computers to your own original blueprint. I am so excited to talk with you. I know that you talk to dragons. It just like everything about what you're doing is so fascinating to me. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So tell us all about you. Let's start with what is Geotran, because that is so unique.
Great starting point. There are, as you say, there are only 40 people in the world who actually do Geotran, and I've been doing it since 1997. Now, I'm going to go back just a little bit further because it will explain something about Geotran as well. I actually trained as an architect in Britain, and I came to a pivot place in 1997. And I'm sure we've all been there. You know, we train for one thing and we get to do that thing for a while. And then we suddenly think, wait a minute, this is, I don't know, I've outgrown this, or in some way. I mean, I felt the same when I left the UK in 92 to come back to the US. Just seriously, from one day to the next, like, okay, I'm done here. Well, it took me a year to loosen myself from architecture because I'd spent so much time learning how to do it, you know, and I love architecture, obviously. But once I did detach, I thought, you know what, I'm looking at the architects around me and I can see that they're really passionate about architecture. Architecture is their being rather than their doing. And I'll bet there's something out there for me like that. Now, this is before I even knew the concept that you have a divine blueprint, or that you have inner biocomputers that can get all clogged up from the contaminations and expectations of other people. I didn't know any of that stuff. I had worked for a rather strange psychiatrist who taught me muscle testing, and that turned out to be very handy in the end. So I thought, what checks for me, that was not the language I was using then, but in retrospect, so I'm going to go on a little road trip. Now, my mom had died and she'd left me a little bit of money, you know. And I thought, okay, sublet my apartment in Vermont. But also, I have just spent 20 years in England and 5 years in Vermont, and I have had 25 years of precipitation, and I am done. So I went south and west, and I ended up in Arizona, of all places, where I met my teacher, Dorothy Espio, who's the creator of Geotran. Now, all of that is sort of interesting enough if you already know about Geotran. What was interesting from my perspective was that she said, oh, I'm giving a free demonstration of this work that I created on Tuesday, and come if you'd like. Well, I thought, sure, why not? So she had somebody up in the front of the room and was muscle testing them. So it's the first time I'd really seen a lot of muscle testing in action. Mm-hmm. And she was demonstrating for this person, and by extension, everybody in the room, that this person could receive, I don't know what it was, like $2,735 per month, no more. $2,735 whatever the next number up would be, arm goes right down. And then she showed us how to fix it. And she said, now, if your life is not going absolutely the way you would like it to, if you don't have enough money, if you have family issues, if you are having the same romantic relationship over and over again, just with different people, and I thought, yeah. If you have physical health problems, these are all programming issues. Now,
Fascinating.
my father and my stepmother are both high-level computer programmers with their own companies. You say these are programming issues to me, and it's like, this means we can fix them. This is a language I know how to speak already. Yeah. So I stayed and I worked in her office for 3 years.
What's a girl to do?
Yeah, I mean, I know more about bottling and labeling 1 ounce remedies than any human being should ever have to learn. I am a total master at bottling. Anyway, and I did a lot of her computer work and stuff like that. And my perk, I mean, she paid me like an hourly rate, but my perk was that I could go to any class she was teaching for free. And I did. And I still do. I go to four big classes a year because I like staying on the cutting edge. But what I found after about a year, and here's where the pivot part comes in. After about a year, basically I woke up one day in the middle of one of these classes and thought, this is it. This is what I was looking for. This is the thing that uses all of me. Yeah. So starting with my first paid job was as a chef in a French restaurant. I mean, it's kind of like cooking and how we approach it. And it's kind of like architectural design, in terms of the structure. And it's like computer programming in the inner biocomputers, which I had, from my family. And I'm really good at it. Which we often are, the things we're most passionate about. So I was there for 3 years. Then I got to another one of those smaller pivot that said, okay, I'm done here. Not that I was done with Geotran. I was done with living in Arizona and working in the office. It was time for me to go and work with some clients. So I actually moved to California, and I was in California for 18 years. And while I was there, I trained as a life coach because nobody knows what Geotran is. I kind of felt I needed to provide a picture of what this could do for people. And coaching was the closest that I came to. I got my doctorate as well. That's a whole long story that we probably don't have time for, but basically I broke my leg and there was nothing I could do for quite a long time. So I got a doctorate, whatever. And then 5 years ago, the universe was saying time to leave California. And I went on another road trip, and I'm here in Urbana, Illinois, because my best friend is a physics professor here at the university. They have a very good physics department. And 5 years ago, I showed up in August, and the next day he said to me, if I bought you a house, would you consider moving here? It's like, okay. See, by now I know how to check the field. It's not about what my personal emotional reaction would be, or even what would be logical. It's, does it check for my computers? This is where we use the muscle testing. And of course, I didn't trust my muscle testing for myself. So I called up a colleague and said, Michael's just offered to buy me a house. Does that check? So fortunately, got well settled in before COVID because we were each other's like sanity meter for those couple of years. And then I started going to France. Now I have been learning French since I was 10. And 3 years ago, these dragons started talking to me. So I want you to picture, I'm going along doing this very scientific healing work in the energy fields. Okay? And it's work that anybody can learn how to do. It's just takes a certain kind of mindset, and you learn the skills, and it's like anybody can learn to be a carpenter, but some people have talent for it. So I'm working away, working with clients, all that lovely stuff, working on myself, of course, all the time, because as you know, most of us become energy healers and things in that realm because we have stuff. And in my daily chat with my guides, suddenly there are these other voices coming in, and I'm looking at them going, who are you? What are you? What is your name? Or what name can I use for you? And these were the dragons. So there are these 5 dragons that I talk to every day. Now, this doesn't sound like it has much to do with Geotran per se. However, one of the reasons they chose me is because of the type of mind that I have. You know? And they started, once I started going to France, which is energetically very different than the US, as I'm sure you know, they started downloading a whole different technique. Now, you may have already noticed that I am rather auditory and verbally accomplished. I mean, I've written 12 books, you know, it's just words. That's how it works for me. Very left-brained. And here are these dragons saying, no, 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 we're just going to use sacred geometry. There aren't going to be any words attached to this new technique, except for the, you know, little bits at the front and the end that say, okay, do a post test, do a whatever. So in the course of 2 months, they downloaded 236 of these activations. And they are all available on one of my many websites, which is called phoenixactivations.com. And they are effectively working in the biocomputers in a very similar way to the way that Geotran does. So I had this like apprenticeship of understanding how the circuits in the body work. Now, here comes another tool. I've always been interested in human design. About 3 years ago, I was working away, learning some more human design. And I had this moment of, wait a minute, human design is all about the gates and the channels. So basically it's about your circuit diagram as a human being. Over here, I have Geotran, which is a series of techniques that adjusts the energy flow through the meridians and the points, very similar to acupuncture points, thankfully without the needles. If we can use Geotran over here to change the energy going through the channels, maybe we could use something similar over here with human design to shift the energy in the circuits. So I developed a whole set of human design activations. I'm the only person I know who can actually change your human design circuit board.
And it's not real complicated. I've looked at some of these, I don't know what you call them, like procedures
Activations.
to go.
Yeah.
Activations. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, as far as I could tell, it was you do the things that you talk about in the beginning, and then you look at these things,
Yep.
and then you do the thing at the bottom.
That's it. And that's why they're all there on phoenixactivations.com, organized by, you know, human design things, dragon things, phoenix things, glory activations, because I want this new technology to get out into the world. I mean, you know, God is my provider. Yes, I charge for what I do because I'm charging for my time and my expertise and my experience, just like a plumber would.
Mm-hmm.
But these new things, it's like, please, please use them. Go play with them. Tell me how you get on with them. What does that feel like? What's different for you? But just like Geotran, it's all about getting the communication to cross the midline. Yeah. Because what people don't understand, or maybe they're coming to understand, is that if you have any form of dyslexia, and you could be dyslexic about anything, that all that means is that the information is unable to cross the midline. And if that goes on for long enough, it's going to start switching off your points, your meridians, and eventually your organs. Yeah. And that applies not just to the physical, but to the soul level, what you think, feel, believe, and desire. So the people I work with tend to be people who have in the past gone through one of these pivots or may now be in one of these major life pivots. They have had success. I mean, all the people I work with are seriously intelligent, sensitive people. Yeah? they just don't understand their own structure, and they actually don't know who they are. They don't know how to get back in alignment with their own divine blueprint. And your divine blueprint is what you agreed with you and spirit before you came into this particular lifetime. And of course, it's going to work better if you're in alignment with that, if you were going with your own grain rather than against it. You know, I mean, yellow pine is a fine wood for building houses. It's not quite so good for furniture, whereas rosewood is really good for furniture and jewelry boxes, but not brilliant for making a house. It just depends on what you're here to do. And that's where my genius comes in, because I can see that. So when I'm working with someone, I am at the same time, I'm seeing where they are now, I'm seeing what their potential is, and I'm seeing how to get them there, because I am listening to your body intelligence. And your body intelligence knows how you got out of alignment, step by step, how to get you back into alignment, step by step. And then I bring out my big fat toolbox and we just, have at it. So
does it work a lot with muscle testing? Is that like the foundation of it?
Yeah. Though seriously, muscle testing is really a diagnostic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the muscle testing is changing the situation. It's just alerting you to where you are. Yeah. So yeah, it's actually the very first thing I teach anybody who wants to learn any Geotran, because how else are you going to be checking all the time? But it's seriously, what I do is just exactly like what happens when, let's say you got a laptop like this lovely little MacBook Pro I have in front of me. Let's say it's being very slow. Let's say it's giving you some odd results. Let's say you're not getting the output that you want from it. Okay, so what do? Well, at my age, you look to your oldest grandchild or the nearest 19-year-old, and you have them come in, and they sit down and they go, and they put some codes in there and they check a few things and they make sure that this is connected to that and this other thing is compatible with the doohickey. And you could learn this if you wanted to. But it's not.
Why?
It's
we
not
have 19-year-olds.
Yeah. It's that person's deal. That's what I'm doing, but I'm doing it in your inner biocomputers. There are 12 of them. And we have integrations and activations for every corner, 4 corners in each biocomputer. And the result, which is the important part, I mean, that's just the technology. I mean, that interests me. But the result is you go from scattered to whole. You go from stuck to sort of going, oh, right. Okay, that's who I am. I kind of lost track. See, once you know who you are, it's relatively easy to hear the next step. But and I have tremendous respect for strategy coaches and all of those lovely people. I really do, because it's just not my deal. Which is why I need it sometimes for other people. So, but what I'm saying is that until you clean up that inner system, that those strategies and what have you, it's not going to produce the results that you want. And in the meantime, people are just so stressed out, when really we're meant to live life calmly with satisfaction, to actually have a happy life. I mean, when's the last time you just felt calmly happy in a centered kind of way?
I actually do feel that way often, but
I'm glad to hear it.
I get what you're saying. And your point about when you were talking about the muscle testing on somebody with, their income limits.
Oh, yeah.
It's really fascinating to me. It's like, to tell you the truth, when we get done here, I'm doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can determine in about 30 seconds what your limit is on any given month. And, I actually do, quite regularly, I do a free masterclass, which is specifically about bringing up your money thermostat.
Mm-hmm.
Because even people with successful businesses, what they will allow themselves to receive personally is often quite low.
Yep.
We live in a universe of infinite resource. How much are you receiving? That becomes the question. No.
And then what are you blocking?
Well,
'Cause I think that
exactly.
happens too.
And that's what's been so fascinating for me. I mean, I've been doing this work for a good long time,
Mhm.
and I have confidence in what I've done in the past, but for me, it's just been fascinating that I think, like everybody else in this field, you make these quantum leaps from time to time, and that's what I've been going through, and that's one of the reasons I keep going back to France. So I have like 2 months here, 2 months there, 2 months here, 2 months here. And I always have a project when I'm there. So when I was there last time, I brought in some more integrations, and I wrote half a book, a biography of my teacher. And but what was more exciting for me was that the more I clean out my own system, the more I'm able to receive, to really hear what these other energies are saying to me. And it's in an increasingly expansive way. And, one of the big messages has been, okay, Kyre, you're working on other people all the time to make sure that they're who they're designed to be. And what percent are you actually doing that for you? I gotta tell you, these dragons have a very sarcastic sense of humor. There she goes, being all human again.
I love that.
Yeah, but it's
So they talk to you,
yes,
and like, so you're clairaudient.
I guess. I teach people how to listen in the field. It is not something I was born with. Now, my teacher, Dorothy, she was Claire, whatever. I think she had all of them actually from an early age. She was especially good at looking at someone and knowing their health situation. So what does Carolyn Mace call that? She's a medical intuitive.
Spoke with somebody like that, and this woman, like, I told her one thing about somebody else who I know very well. And she's like, yeah, and this is going on, and that's going on, and this other thing is going on, and they need to talk to me. I'm like, yes, they do.
Yeah. Well, I had to be trained. Now, here's the good part. Because I had to learn it, because I know I have experienced that journey from total left brain to, okay, what's the right brain, left brain balance? How can we use both sides together? Which is, of course, the divine feminine, is the right brain stuff. And we've been moving into that since 1987, and especially after 2012. So, eventually I got it, that my experience in a strongly predominantly masculine field has actually been beneficial in terms of experiencing that balance. And that's one of the things that I work with other people about. Now, I primarily work with women because women are the processors. Guys are very action oriented, which is fine. I mean, we all need printers as well as computers, absolutely. But because I have experienced so much of that myself, that actually makes it easier and smoother for me to work with other people. Now, in human design terms, we would say, well, I have a completely open G center, right? So I'm always asking questions about love and direction, which makes my life a little turbulent, but makes me really, really good at holding that space for other people, especially on those issues, love and direction. So when I'm working with someone, I can be in that place. I'm not there all the time because I want to have their permission. I don't go around reading people at random. But I definitely have the capacity to start talking to someone and say, wait a minute, okay, hang on. So what you just said to me, there are 3 things, 3 habits or patterns or addictions or allergies or contaminations or incorrect soul ties. Oh God, that one's really big at the moment. And that's taking you out of who you are. Okay, now the first one, and here's where the muscle testing comes in. The first one you picked up when you were 3. from a female person. And it's operating in this part of your structure, which might be the meridians, but might be somewhere else. Very, very common for people to pick up an overwhelming contamination at the moment of birth or within 10 minutes of birth. And then they grow up with that. And for them, it is completely normal. And they assume that everybody else sees things through that lens. But we can go back there and change that. So they don't have to do that anymore, because it's always going to end, it's called a shapeshifter. It's always going to end up with stupidity or mediocrity or both. And we're here to be excellent, each in our own way. We're here to be unique. We're here to be individuals. We're not to be subsumed or assimilated. I mean, I think Star Trek really deserves a lot of credit for some of the concepts it brought into the Western imagination. You know, we're not supposed to be part of the Borg.
Yeah. The whole intergalactical television series that were out there, even like the Stargate one.
I think I've only seen one of those, but yeah.
I've seen a few of them, and I'm not entirely convinced that they're not telling the truth.
Well, and then we get to this
It's
whole
like,
question of timelines and multiple dimensions and all the rest of it, which is stuff I work with all the time. Yeah, but I'm not really so, I mean, I'm nicely poised between the woo and the scientific. Yeah, I mean, if I were a Venn diagram, it's like, okay, we got design over here, and we've got, you know, getting people back to who they are over here, and we've got scientific principles over here, and then we've got the sort of, well, I got to tell you, my intuition's saying such and such, and then of course this is dragons. So I think
yeah,
dragons are in the middle, really, of the Venn diagram. I think.
I totally can relate to what you're saying, because my brain works the same way. I'm just like, I love all of this and I love all of that. I love science. I mean, biology, chemistry,
That's
it's
your
like my,
background, isn't it? Yeah.
it is mostly. It's just like when I was in college, those were the things that just like I gravitate towards them. They just made sense to me. Really bad at math because I didn't have a good enough foundation of like the basics, like multiplication and division. I didn't understand how those things worked because I moved around so much as a child. And if you don't have a really good math base, it makes chemistry a little more difficult. Not impossible, because the ideas about chemistry are just like, they made total sense to me. I get molecules and yeah, and particles, and I see things. I see how things go together. I can visualize. I'm very visual. I can go places and do things without ever leaving my body. It's just like close my eyes and I can go there. And not everybody can do that. It's kind of weird. Like I can
Really
take pieces and put them together in my head, like puzzle pieces, to see how they go together. But yeah, science is like, I love it.
Well, you know, my best friend for 48 years is a theoretical physicist. He trained at the same department as Stephen Hawking, who I have met because I used to go and have tea there in Cambridge. And it only occurred to me about 2 weeks ago that what he's doing in the realm of physics is what I'm doing in the fields of glory. That's actually what I do. I am a research theoretical physicist, but I'm operating in these spiritual realms, which he doesn't understand at all. But after about 30 years of me doing Geotran, he'll now sort of say, you know, that thing that you do that I don't agree with or understand or know anything about, but you know, my shoulder hurts. Could you just like fix it? But it's actually very similar to what he's doing. Yeah. And
it's all related.
it really is, and not in a superficial manner. in a structural manner. Yeah. In a
Yeah,
conceptual-
a particle is present and everywhere, all
Absolutely.
at the same time.
It really is.
And it all starts with that.
Mhm.
It's just like,
Mhm.
that's the foundation.
Yeah.
It exists and it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And once
Well,
you
my
wrap
dad
your
was
mind around that, everything else is possible.
And my dad was a mathematician. So that was his first training before he went into computer programming. And my stepmother, who also went to Cambridge, that's how we ended up living there. She did an inorganic chemistry, astronomy, crystallography part 1, English part 2, which I thought was just marvelous. You can do that at Cambridge. You can have these, chunks go together.
Mhm.
And both of them really saw the world through that scientific lens. And so for none of them, nobody in my family understands who I am, what I can do. I mean, I am the teal sheep of the family. They know that what I do is not criminal. I'm not the black sheep, but nor even scandalous, but definitely the teal sheep. So it's very interesting for me that I spend a lot of my time with scientists who almost completely fail to grasp what I'm doing, because it's not presented to them using the language and the concepts that not only these are what they're familiar with, they don't truly believe in the validity of any other perspective.
But if
Yeah.
they had the language, they would recognize it's the same thing.
So you would think they would be a little bit more open to it, but there you go. So I just toddle along, explaining it as best I may to the people who do get it. And that's what a lot of my books are about. And I've got 5 or 6 on this whole idea, the energy structure of the universe and how that's going into the divine feminine. I've also got, let's see now, I've written 2 cookbooks, 3 photography books, 1 book about toxins. The Dragons had me write a book last time I was in France that needs to be revised a little bit. And then there's this biography of my teacher. So, put me in front of a good laptop, preferably Mac, and I am just
Cruising right along. So how
right.
do people get in touch with you and work with you, and who do you work with?
Because seriously, soon I'm going to be so busy that you really need to get to me now. I am not being elitist here. I'm just saying we all of us have only so much time, So the best way to get in touch with me is actually you can go on Facebook. I've got a sufficiently unusual name. My Facebook page is under my name, Kyre Adept. Email Dr. Kyre Adept, so DrKyreAdept @gmail.com. My main website is called adeptactivations.com. And my second, well, I've actually got 6 websites, but the other one you'd be interested in is the phoenixactivations.com. And those 2 work together, obviously. But, it's very interesting. This is really very interesting timing. We're taping this at the end of September. I know it's not going to go out until December, and that's great. So by the time your lovely people are listening to this, my school, SKOOL, is going to be set up, because I'm wanting to create a community space where people like you, like me, it's going to be mainly women. I'm not excluding men, but it's going to be mainly women, because we're the processors that want to see how to use, not just from a technique point of view, but from a perspective of how can we transcend and include this stuff that keeps getting in our ways? How can we reconnect more cleanly and completely with our own programming? And of course, I have this particular interest myself in the dragon. So it's actually going to be called Dragon Divas. So if you go on school,
I love that.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to change the name of my Facebook group to Dragon Divas as well, so you'll be able to find it. And yeah, let's get some of that dragon energy going, not in the hoarding of gold and breathing fire on an enemy's point of view, although those are reasonable things too, but more in the sort of, okay, we have come from a long way away. Good thing we can fly multidimensionally. And we have come to this planet at this time to say to you humans, will you kindly get your act together before climate change unbalances the actual energy entity that is this planet, which has relationships and is in a certain type of balance and harmony with the other local planets and stars. And if that goes seriously out of balance, this part of the galaxy is basically screwed. So come on, humans, take some responsibility. And that's actually what the book From the Dragons is about, is three things together. One, the human race as a whole is addicted to a fear of lack, a fear of not enough. Two, please stop killing each other. This belief in death is just really, really tiresome for everybody to observe. And three, start taking responsibility for how you're treating the planet, because the planet can live without you, trust me. But
and it may try to just shrug us all off.
well,
together.
And the planet being out of balance and harmony with its neighbors is part of the larger structure of what's going on in our galactic neighborhood, and we need to be responsible for that and not keep going to I was going to say going to extremes. That's not exactly what I mean. Yeah, being hectic, being out of balance, being feverish, being
in fear, grabbing at things. Then
yeah. So getting back to the computers, right? Overall, as humans, we have an operating system which is called faith. And our backup operating system is patience. And then once we get to a certain level, the operating system is grace and obedience. And I could talk about those more, but I just would like to talk about the base level for a second. Because every part of the plan of God has a duplicate, a below the line duplicate. Okay, so the duplicate of faith and patience is, wait for it, fear and doubt. So I'm going to say to all your lovely listeners who have perhaps been sucked into conspiracy theories, my lovelies, if it doesn't increase your faith and patience, please walk away. So much of politics and conspiracy theories and all the rest of it are playing on fear and doubt. That's what the incorrect spirits are feeding on. Don't be food for that stuff. No, just really train yourself.
The other side, hope and opportunity.
Yeah,
it's happening now.
Yeah. I mean, this is all going on multidimensionally. It's not just in this particular little slot where you and I are speaking in our physical bodies and talking to each other in real time. Yeah. It's other timelines, it's other dimensions, it's other places where we may be monitoring other stuff going on. So we just really need to step up to the plate a little bit more enthusiastically, perhaps might be the word.
This has been such an amazing conversation. I'm going to ask you what one thing you want to leave the audience with today, but God, I know I want to have further conversations with you because there's like so much that hasn't been discussed yet that I really want to talk to you about.
I was trying to teach my French friend the English expression, and there's plenty more where that came from. So here's the deal. Listen to me, my dear. So just really lean in. You came here to be and do and have something magnificent. So let's get you back to who you were designed to be, what you are designed to have. Because only then can you take your place in the circle. And there is nothing in this life more important than that, than you being who you are.
Yeah, the world's depending on you. The universe is depending on you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Whatever you believe is God is depending on you.
It really is. I mean, even from a more normal theological point of view, I mean, if God, and I'm talking about the God of the religions of the book, just a moment, it struck me as a very local idea, but that's a whole other discussion. If God could create what God wanted to create on this planet without us humans, it would already be here. This is a co-creation planet. So let's step up to the plate and let's create something marvelous with ease, with grace, with magnificence, with peace of mind, with that expansive truth and light that we are.
It impacts the whole world.
And it does. It really, really does. So yay for us. Woo!
Yay for us indeed. Thank you so much, Kyre, for joining me today. This has been so good.
And I just have my little my fairy godmother magic wand here, so I'm giving a nice, ting, a benediction to everybody who's listening, and especially blowing off the ceiling of your financial limitations. And I expect.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order, or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.